So if your dog gets very anxious when they see other dogs or cats out on the walks, maybe squirrels, and they get real anxious. So there's a lot of little steps that you can take to make the whole process a lot easier than just going out and yanking on the leash when your dog gets overly excited. So what I would like to do with all dogs, and I suggest others to do, is to use a balanced approach when it comes to these kinds of things, which means we're going to condition our dogs to markers first. We're going to get our dog to understand what we're asking of them first. So the dog doesn't just get corrected for nothing, then they don't understand what to do to fix that correction. If you teach the dog to the point where they have an understanding of what you're asking before you correct them, then it makes it much more clear to them as to why they got the correction, and it becomes far less stressful for the dog. So that's definitely the best way to do that, but you can do it without a correction at all, just by using a negative reinforcement marker. So what you're going to want to do is condition your dog to their markers, their negative reinforcement marker, their positive reinforcement marker, if you want a positive punishment marker, to let your dog know when they're doing the wrong behaviors and when they're doing a behavior that you like. So first thing you're going to want to do is use a place command for this. Just makes it a lot easier. So it's for the dog in this sense. So it makes it a lot easier for the dog to understand when they step off the place command, because it's a raised bed. So you're gonna tell your dog place, bed, whatever word you want. You're gonna put them up on the place command. Then you can get excited, get a little crazy, do some things. Sometimes you don't even have to do anything and your dog's stepping right off. The second they step off, you're gonna use your negative reinforcement marker. You're gonna correct them with that marker. You're gonna say wrong, no, whatever you want. And then you're just gonna guide them right back to the place command. And you're gonna do this until you say no, and your pause before you to go and grab the leash to walk them back, they're already stopping and turning back, and they're going back. So once they do that, okay, they understand what no means, they're stopping. And that's also why you always need to pause your actions before or after your verbal. So you need to say your no and then go. If you say your no and you go at the same time, you'll never know when they're conditioned. So make sure to separate and pause those. So once your dog is then conditioned to that, it's best to generalize them to that command. And by that, I mean you want to use it in different areas. That way your dog knows that it's not just one thing, but several things. And by that, I mean you're going to want to have them sit, do kind of the same thing. Sometimes you don't have to do much. Other times you can do something crazy. Get your dog to break the command, then say your no, wrong, whatever word you'd like, and then just put them back in that sit command right after you say the verbal. Do this until your dog does the same thing. The minute you say no, they go back into the sit command. So do this with several different commands: lay down, heel, center. You can do it with different commands and different places, like not just a place command, but then you can start doing it on their bed, on your couch, or whatever you would like, a rock. Do it in different areas so the dog becomes generalized and understands when you say no or whatever your negative reinforcement marker is going to be, that they need to stop what they're doing and they need to go back into the previous position. Okay, so once they're done, they're conditioned to those, you can then move on to a positive punishment. So your dog now already is conditioned, they're already responding, but sometimes they're ignoring you. Then you can start using a positive punishment and correct either with a leash, snap on the leash, or you can correct with an e-collar. Once they're conditioned to that, or if you want to skip that step, of course, you can just jump over to the next step, which is taking them out to the areas that they're triggered by. So if this was like the scenario before, your dog's getting hyped up because of other dogs, or your dog maybe is getting hyped up because of cats or squirrels, then they're going to be starting to get anxious. So that's when you're going to start using your no marker that they know means the behavior that they just did was wrong, and they need to go back into the previous position. So you take them out, they start to get hyped up, you say your no. If they don't listen in the beginning, that's when you then take the leash, put them back to your heel spot. If they're still going really crazy, that's when you need to step away, turn around, and walk the other direction. Walk them away from where they're going crazy, or just stand there until they completely relax. You want to make sure to wait until they're relaxed before you continue your walk. Even if that means the whole time your walk is only you walking this far and then stopping and waiting. Because if you continue your walk while your dog's all hyped up, you are telling the dog that this is a behavior that's acceptable. If you do this behavior, I'm going to take you for a walk. Because that walk alone is a reward for your dog. It's pleasurable. And because of that, if you continue the walk, it's the same thing as you saying yes and handing them the treat. It is positive association or positive reinforcement. And it's going to build up a positive association with that behavior that they're doing. And they're going to think, all I need to do is get hyped up, get anxious, and they're going to take me on a walk. It's going to be great and groovy. So you need to show them and paint them a new picture. Say, it's not going to be like that. If you get hyped up, I'm going to stand here and I'm going to wait. Then they're going to learn, okay, what do I do to get the rewards? And if you've done enough exercises at home, it's going to be a lot easier once you get out and start doing this. They're going to start thinking about it and go, well, at home, they really liked it when I stood right here on their heel. I'm going to go over there and see if that'll get them to walk forward. When they give you a behavior that you like, such as the heel, or they sit down in front of you, or they lay down and they're relaxed, then mark with your yes and hand them a treat. This will then tell them, okay, this was the behavior they're looking for. If I stand next to her, they're gonna let me walk forward. And that's where a heel can be very useful, and you can start using heel to show them that. But you can do loose leash walking as well. Heel is just a fun little thing you can add on once your dog gets better. I always suggest people using loose leash walking first, because it's a lot easier for the dog than to make them stay right here. So definitely, if it's too hard for you to work the heel, let them have the leash and just calmly pull them back when they overstep and start pulling on you. And then once they get better and they're actually responding to you about 80% of the time, then you can start adding on those positive punishments. If you would like to snap the leash, pop the leash, or use an e-collar to let them know that that behavior is not warranted and you're ignoring my corrections. So I'm just going to tell you, hey, this negative feeling on your neck's going to happen every time you continue to do this behavior. Both techniques work. If you don't want to use the positive punishment, it just takes a little bit longer for the dog to really get it, and it's not quite as reliable, but you can definitely get a dog to understand. So then it's just a rinse and repeat. And the same thing, you want to generalize your dog to this behavior or to these actions that you're doing this. And by that I mean you're going to want to take them to several different parks, several different areas with other dogs. They say it takes about 7 to 10 places, different places for your dog to get generalized. Some could be less, some could be more. Just kind of depends on the dog and how good you are and how timely your corrections are. But give or take 9 different areas, your dog is going to become generalized, and it's going to become suddenly a lot easier to take your dog out. So it's a lot of steps that lead up to the end result, and a lot of patience and repetitive motions, repetitive commands, and just continuously and very consistently getting on to them and showing them a clear picture of what you're looking, showing them this is where or how you get rewarded, and when you do this, this is why or when we're going to punish you, or use an e-collar or use a pop on a leash. So I hope this helps. I'm going to make some videos to demonstrate things and go over it using some dogs to give you some examples. But I just wanted to walk you through the process before we jump into the exercises. So if you have any questions, feel free to let me know, and I'm happy to help, and I'll get back to you then.